Okay, jury selection has begun for the Elizabeth Holmes trial today, marking the official start. Let's break down what we know so far. Just for a quick refresher, obviously, you know, Theranos was a blood testing startup here in Silicon Valley. It was backed by a bunch of weird non-venture capital firms, and it had a bunch of people on the board of directors who were old men from military and, senior cabinet positions in politics. It was really a technology company backed by non-technologists and, with an governance of old white men. It was really weird. And we all noticed that here in Silicon Valley. The CEO, Elizabeth Holmes, and the COO, Sunny Balwani, were jointly charged with wire fraud and conspiracy to commit wire fraud back in June 2018. They were also in a relationship, something I said on CNBC. I might have been the first person to report that accidentally because it was kind of an openly known thing in Silicon Valley. According to the Wall Street Journals, Holmes is being tried by herself, not with Balwani. And this is because of the fact that she is now going to claim a Svengali defense that she is being manipulated, or she was manipulated. She faces a dozen counts of wire fraud and conspiracy to commit wire fraud for allegedly misleading investors and patients about Theranos' technology. In other words, when you got the blood prick, you're supposed to give like one little drop and they would tell you everything. Turns out they didn't know anything. They were giving wrong results to people. They had to recant all of those blood tests. And they were also, when raising money from investors, according to John Carreyrous and many people's reporting and witnesses, taking blood samples and then using a different machine, a commercially available machine, getting the results, putting them back into their fake machine. Crazy. I mean, deranged behavior. Both of them have pled not guilty. And if you want to check our prior coverage of this Theranos story, I really highly recommend episode 828 and episode 617 when I had John Carreyrous on the show. So this is like 600 episodes I had John Carreyrous on after he wrote the first story, episode 617, and then when he finally wrote his book, which is amazing. He should have won a Pulitzer for the coverage here. I don't know why he didn't, in episode 828. And John Carreyrous is doing his own podcast about this, so you should look that up, Bad Blood, the final chapter. I'm no expert on the law, but essentially, when you lie to people and you sell them shares and you take their money, the money goes over the wire and boom, fraud. There you have it. And Holmes and Balwani are facing a maximum sentence of 20 years and a fine of $250,000 if convicted. My God, the fine seems so tiny these days and just out of proportion when, this is a $10 billion fraud, because that's what the company, I think, peaked at in its valuation. And they raised hundreds of millions of dollars. They've obviously both pleaded not guilty. Neither one of them have cut a deal, which I think actually is what's going to happen with Elizabeth Holmes. I'm going to put it out there right now. I think they're going to get 2 weeks into this trial, and it is going to look so bad for her that I think she's going to cut a deal, flip on Balwani, and maybe she serves. I put it at 3 years. I'm giving you my estimate right at the beginning. I think she serves, if I had to set an over-under, which is like setting a line in gambling, that has a reasonable chance of falling either way. I'm putting it at 32 and a half months. I think that's where it comes down for me. No push, folks. If she does 2 weeks or something like that, something funky, we're not counting it. So we're going to do it in full months. So according to the Wall Street Journal, newly public court records show that Holmes could argue that, quote, she was in a decade-long abusive relationship with former Theranos president Ramesh Sunny Balwani that left her under his control. Obviously, she's arguing that she was under his control during the period in which the frauds were committed. Very convenient. Holmes accused Mr. Balwani of controlling what she ate, when she slept, and how she dressed, throwing sharp objects at her, and monitoring her text messages and emails, among other things. Again, all of this is according to court documents obtained by the Wall Street Journal. And according to that Wall Street Journal article, the newly released documents were filed in court under seal between 2019 and 2020. John Carreyrous, who is covering the Holmes trial in a new podcast titled Bad Blood, the final chapter, called this the Svengali defense on Twitter. And so, the Svengali defense is, quote, according to Wikipedia, a legal tactic that portrays the defendant as a pawn in a scheme of a greater, more influential criminal mastermind. So the Wall Street Journal also noted that, quote, Mr. Balwani unequivocally denies that he engaged in any abuse at any time, according to newly unsealed filings. The Wall Street Journal also interviewed a forensic psychiatrist named Jason Roof for the article, and he gave the money quote here: given the complexity of a white-collar crime over the span of a great deal of years, making the case that the person throughout each of these dealings was unable to understand the nature and quality of what they were doing is going to be difficult, Rufal. So I mentioned that defenses rooted in manipulation and PTSD can help explain situations where, quote, brief, acute episodes severely impair the defendant's behavior. Brief and acute, I think, are the exact opposite of how you would describe the Theranos fraud. So while this defense, you would want to give the benefit of the doubt to anybody who was in fact abused, I think Elizabeth Holmes is a masterful manipulator of people's emotions and minds and is incredibly savvy when it comes to image, obviously cribbing details of Steve Jobs's, dropping out of college, wearing turtlenecks, using his quotes, mimicking his, behaviors and mannerisms and using that deep voice. This is a completely insincere person who orchestrated a massive fraud by all accounts and just objectively looking at what happened. And you're going to say that she was the one who was manipulated over a decade? And was Balwani there for the entire decade? Because I don't think that that's the case. So what about the time she wasn't with him? Was she actually committing a fraud? And then he came and then it became a bigger fraud? I think it's like a hard one to believe. Okay, Dell for Entrepreneurs wants you to stay connected to your business no matter where you are in a world where you can work from anywhere. Why would you let technology hold you back? You shouldn't. Mobile-ready devices such as Dell's Latitude line of tablets pair with Verizon to give founders the power to stay connected wherever there is cell phone coverage. So stay productive as you scale your business with confidence of secure connections. No more relying on public Wi-Fi. Oh no, because it's usually way too slow and dangerous. Don't I know it? I was just on the road. Stay confident that your connection is secure with Dell's mobile-ready devices. And these are incredible, You want to have that built into the tablets, and that's what Dell's Latitude line is doing, something I care very deeply about. And you all know I love my Dells. I've got a great Dell computer because I like to play a little StarCraft 2. And man, Windows is so fast and powerful on these Dell computers. It's so stable. I just can't believe it. And I have so many Dell monitors. Well, I have two giant Dell monitors turned in landscape mode, like turning them, instead of being widescreen, you just flip them. So I am more effective because I work in a dynamic industry. I got to keep 4 or 5 things going at once. And my Dell monitors help me do that. You can go to launch.co/Dell to get connected to Marcus, a manager at Dell for Entrepreneurs, for more info and to unlock exclusive deals like an extra 5% off. Just go to launch.co/Dell and you'll get connected to save 5% today. Go to launch.co/Dell.